Without further ado, please join me in welcoming our guest for today, Cheryl Bachelder.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you so much for those kind words. You must have talked to one of my sisters or brothers. You had an awful lot of insight there. I've stopped telling people about piano a long time ago. So thank you for having me here with you today. It's an honor and a privilege to have a chance to speak with you about leadership. It is, in fact, I fell hard, head over heels in love with the study of leadership a very long time ago. In fact, as I like to say, if I can let's go back. That's not the slide. It needs to go backwards. If you can help me with that. It seems stuck. So when I fell hard for leadership, it was because I started to notice a distinct theme in my life around leadership. And a lot of us don't figure out the theme in our life early on, but there is a theme. And as I talk to you today, I want you to consider whether your theme includes leadership. Over the years, as I look at my life, few things have been as obvious to me as the impact of leaders on my life. And I'm going to talk to you today about the influence, the stewardship, the importance of using your leadership opportunity for good. So as I look back over my life, one of the reasons I'm fascinated with leadership is because of the leaders I met in my life. First, I'd like you to meet Max and Margie. They are my parents, the first leaders who instilled in me my values, my approach to life, the first role models that I got to observe and follow. I only kept this picture because I'm the only child in the picture, right? You like the picture best where you're the only one in it? I'm the oldest of 4 kids, and my parents instilled in us life lessons around the dinner table over the course of our life that led to this outcome. All 4 of us are CEOs of major corporations, 2 in healthcare, 1 in water engineering, and I picked the fun category, food. Okay? I don't tell you this to brag about my siblings or myself. I tell you this to catch note of the influence and the impact that leaders have, like parents, on the lives of their children, and then the impact and influence that their children might have on the lives of others. Now, I wanted you to know I'm not boring, so this is my husband and I in a photo booth, acting weird. We've been married 33 years, and we've been given the opportunity of influence and impact in the lives of our family. We've been blessed with 3 daughters. My poor husband, even our cat, is a girl. So we have a lot of girls in our family, a lot of hormones, a lot of emotion. But we were blessed with the opportunity to treat that responsibility seriously and breathe into the lives of our children, who we call our leadership protégés. Okay, we're developing leaders in them. And today we have a leader in industrial engineering at Disney in Orlando. And we have a leader who's an editor of the Wall Street Journal. And we have a leader who's a young budding entrepreneur. All of those opportunities for influence came in the leadership of our family. Oh, I don't know how Grant got here, but this is our newest leader. This is my first grandchild. Okay, so I couldn't show up without Grant because it's kind of all I think about right now. But here's the thought. Leadership is an opportunity to have impact and influence on lives, and it goes on for generations and generations. So I've just talked to you about a personal story about my family, but this is true if you lead in your community. This is true if you lead in your home. This is true if you lead in business. This is true if you lead in a hospital. Wherever you are called to lead, you're being called to have influence and impact on the lives of people in this generation and for generations to come. And I want to talk to you today about that through the example of Popeyes Louisiana Kitchen. Now that may seem odd, but my leadership at Popeyes has been what I call a grand experiment. I've been leading companies for a long time, but this is the first time they actually gave me the keys. Okay, so they gave me the keys to this incredible brand, this incredible opportunity to turn around a company that was suffering really poor business results. And we decided to turn that into an experiment in leadership, to see if a unique approach to leadership would generate superior results in our industry. What was that approach? We call it Dare to Serve Leadership. And we believe it is how you drive superior performance results. And we just wanted to be one good case study in the world to say this might work. Today I'm going to take you through what that means. What approach did we take to the turnaround of Popeyes Louisiana Kitchen? What can you learn from leadership from that approach? To do that, I need to give you just a little bit of background about Popeyes. We're a company that's 43 years old. This is not a new venture. Okay? Founded by Al Copeland in 1972, and the first restaurant was Chicken on the Run. But that didn't work very well, so it quickly became Popeyes Chicken and Biscuits, you may remember. About 7 years ago, after 7 years of declining sales, declining guest traffic, declining market share, declining profitability, poor restaurant performance, franchisees going out of business, there was an opportunity for a turnaround to see if this brand, which at the time was 35 years old, could be revived for the long term. Well, you might expect our team came together and we created a business plan. All turnarounds need a business plan. Ours was called a roadmap to results, and we picked 4 things that we thought would have a powerful impact on the turnaround of the business. And I often say these things really are not rocket science. These are just the 4 things that if you actually do them well, restaurants perform. The first is you build a great brand, a distinctive, relevant, contemporary brand. Your brand has to be with it. People have to want to come for what you have to offer. The second thing is you have to create some memorable, positive experiences for the people that come visit your restaurant. If it's not clean, if it's not fast, if you don't get what you order, if it's a miserable time, you're not going to come back. All the loyalty in a restaurant is created from the experience that you had the last time you went there. The third pillar in our plan was about the profitability of our restaurants. Now that might seem really obvious. However, at the time we joined this company, there was no measure of restaurant profitability in the company. For you see, we're a franchisor, and what that means is we offer you the opportunity to invest and build a Popeyes. You can hire all the people, you can do all the work, and we'll collect a 5% royalty check from you. Thank you very much. If you take that approach to our business model, you don't measure the profitability of the owners, and you don't know if they're making any return on their investment. And by the way, it looks like you don't care very much if you don't monitor the profitability of your restaurants. So we decided to be different from other franchisors, and we are the only franchisor I'm aware of that measures the profitability of our owners' restaurants. So it might be obvious, but it's just not happening in our category. I'll tell you in a few minutes why that's been so important. We now measure profitability every quarter in every restaurant. Because the last pillar on this chart is for us to make money as a franchisor, we have to build more restaurants. That's how value is created in our business model. And guess what? The only reason people would ever build another restaurant is if the last one they did was good, right? So you only get the privilege of growth in our business if the first 3 pillars are working. Your brand is vital and effective, your restaurants are running well, and they make money and a return for the owners who invested in them. That's called a business plan. Well, we put that plan out to our system and told them that's what we were going to chase. Here are a few of the things that came out as a result of that plan. The first thing we did was reposition our brand. If you've been in business school, you know that repositioning means you change the name and the way you talk about your brand, and it gives people a new view as to what you stand for. The new name of our brand is Popeyes Louisiana Kitchen. We launched that in the fall of 2008, and it began to change the way people think about our brand. We come from an incredible place called Louisiana that has the best food in America, and we hadn't been talking about that. It was time to remind people that we marinate chicken for 12 hours fresh in the restaurant every day. We make it fresh when you come in. The things that we do to prepare the quality food at Popeyes are completely different than a burger chain in our category. We actually make real food. Food that's so hard to make, you've stopped making it at home. But we hadn't been telling people about it. So we created Popeyes Louisiana Kitchen. We created new stories about our food that we started to tell people. And we created new products, exciting things like rippin' chicken and dippin' chicken. And last month, if you came, it was Terran tenderloins. Some exciting new ways to think about chicken with some incredible sauces, some innovation behind this idea called Popeyes Louisiana Kitchen. Well, then we had to tell you about it. So let's listen to what Annie has to say. So now you've met our Annie. Annie has been transformational to how people think about our brand. She's an incredible storyteller. She scores almost as well as Verizon Man. She's really understood to tell you a quality story, innovation story, the Louisiana story, the price story. Whatever story needs to be told, Annie tells it in a compelling way that invites you like a family member to come to Popeyes and eat. Since she's been on air, the awareness and trial of Popeyes has doubled. We have also invested in her. In 2008, we had 3 national media flights, and today we have 12. So she's on television almost year-round now, inviting you in every one of the 50 states in America. We've also become a national brand in this time frame. So innovation, brand building, spokesperson, great media, all parts of a turnaround. But here's the other thing we did. The restaurant has an impact on how you think about our brand. And in the last 24 months, we have overhauled the restaurants of Popeyes system-wide. We had to get the business back on track first, generate some profits for the owners, and then guess what? They've reinvested them back in the buildings where you go to eat Popeyes. The picture on the screen is our typical building. It looks like a French Quarter building. It's now got Popeyes Louisiana Kitchen on the front of it. And inside, it's become a beautiful tribute to Louisiana, sharing with you the spice jars of Louisiana, the wrought iron ring of Louisiana, the crab cages that serve as lights over the high table in the center, a warm, approachable place, and yes, we have wireless. It's changed the look and feel of our brand. It's made us fresh, contemporary, and relevant. And 70% of our restaurants are done today. 90% of them will be done a year from now. So these are some of the business things that you do to grow your brand. Let's talk now about the results. A business plan only matters if it generates huge positive results. Here are our results at Popeyes. Our sales and our market share are up dramatically. The average Popeyes used to do $1 million in sales. It does $1.3 million today. Our market share of chicken used to be 14%. It's 23% today. Our guest experience used to be terrible. Today it's better. I won't claim good. Okay? Improved by about 20 points, has about 20 to go. Our franchise restaurant profits, I mentioned earlier, this was a game changer. Our franchisees today make 40% more money per restaurant than they made 6 years ago. It's about $100,000 per restaurant. It's changed the game. We've opened, it's now actually 375 restaurants in the last 3 years, which is 20% of our system has been built and opened in the last few years. Our new restaurants open at $1.6 million in volume, not $1.3 million. So we've become a vital, growing, healthy chain. But importantly, our franchisees, our most important customer, are 93% satisfied with us as their franchisor, and we get rated every year by them. The measure that Wall Street uses is share price. Our share price is up 400%. They're pretty happy with that. I was in New York yesterday talking to investors. I got a lot of hugs. It's really fun to go to Wall Street when your numbers look like this. It's really not fun if they don't look like this. So the outcome, right, the result, the proof in the pudding is our approach to leadership has generated financial performance that's outpaced everybody in our sector. So all that is permission now to tell you how we did it, what our leadership approach was. I needed to tell you that, but because without results, there's no credibility in a story. We have results, and we got them a different way than usual. We got them by leading in a different way. The Wall Street Journal, before my daughter joined, covered our story. I don't want you to think anything untoward happened. The Wall Street Journal featured our turnaround as the best turnaround in our industry and talked most about the relationships that we have with our franchisees. Just this week, we're putting to bed a book on the turnaround of Popeyes to tell the story to more people. And it's called Dare to Serve, How to Drive Superior Performance by Serving Others. You're going to get a bit of a sneak preview of the story that we're telling in that book, which comes out in March. This is the leadership team that came together to make this happen. Leadership is not any one person, it's a team. We have a team of 8 people deeply qualified to lead their functional areas, and together they have over 200 years of experience, which I know that means we're old. So what is this thing called Dare to Serve leadership? What does that mean? Well, the approach that we took has 4 components that I'm going to touch on in the time we have together. We made a decision first that we were going to serve someone well by our leadership. And that required us to decide who we would serve. Who would we serve well? The second thing we had to do is we had to set out to go after a daring destination. In leadership, it's really important to go big or go home. You have to call out a destination that's way better than where the team's ever been, has a lot of courage, takes a lot of courage to chase, because it has to be worth chasing. So we'll talk about the daring destination. You have to talk about why you work. This is not a conventional conversation at work. People don't just walk up to you and say, "Why did you come today?" We need to know. But this is an unusual tack that we've taken in our work to discover why people came and to tap into their personal purpose for success. And finally, how will we work together? What principles will govern how we make decisions? What will happen when we come together in a meeting with the facts and figures and our experience? How will we go about making a decision? These are the 4 paths that we took to lead this company different than some other companies and create these results. So let's go through them in a little more detail. I will always tell you, though, and you'll hear me keep repeating this, it wouldn't matter that we did all these things if they didn't turn out results. We chose a theory espoused by a man named Robert Greenleaf. He is the thought leader in an arena called servant leadership. Some of you are taking a class in servant leadership right now, and some of you have studied it other places. It's not the prevailing approach to leadership. In fact, it's really rare. If you're suspicious of it, it's because you haven't seen much of it in the real world. And so I'm going to say some provocative things that may not line up well with what you've learned about leadership. But Robert Greenleaf took the position that good leaders must first become good servants. And what that means is leaders' ability to serve others over self-interest. The leader's ability to serve others before their self-interest. It's basically the question is, can you get over yourself? And can you get yourself out of the spotlight and find a way to put others and your enterprise in the spotlight through its performance? That's the path that we took. To do that, we had to decide who we would serve, and we actually had a meeting about this. And we put on the flip charts all the possibilities of the people that we could serve at Popeyes. And of course, we talked about the shareholders because they were kind of mad back then. We talked about the franchise owners because they also were not very happy people. We talked about the board. They weren't very happy. We talked about the guest. They were not getting served well. We had a lot of choices to make. Now, one of the theories in business school is all these people on this list are called stakeholders. And your job as a leader is to make them all happy. Well, good luck with that. Good luck with that. Have you ever tried to make everybody in any room happy? It's hard to do. Focus is much more effective because if you choose to serve one group well, you'll likely serve those other people well, but if you choose to serve them all well, you'll likely serve none of them well. After much debate, the finance guy argued that it was the shareholder. The guy worried about his career argued for the board. You know, they hired us, right? The marketing person argued for the guest, and the ops person argued for the employee. But after much debate and discussion, we chose the franchise operator, and here's why. They made all the investment. They mortgaged their house. They borrowed money. Their kids didn't get to go on vacation because they put it all in the Popeyes business. Not a one of us on the leadership team had taken out a second mortgage to work for Popeyes. Not a one of us had worked a 7-day, 24/7 hour week to make sure the restaurants were operating well for our guests. We're corporate leaders, okay? So we had to ask ourselves, who's more important than us? And in our business model, it is definitively the owner who put all the investment of sweat equity and financial equity and a lifetime. Many of our owners have been in our system 30 years. They deserve to be served well by the leadership of Popeyes. And that's who we chose, and that's who we've talked about ever since. Now, the other problem we had was an attitude problem. When my teenagers got up grumpy in the morning, and there were many of those days, I would chime up and say, daughters, your attitude is your altitude. And they would groan, right? They're teenagers. Well, unfortunately, your attitude is your altitude in leadership. Your approach to leadership is completely defined by your attitude. And at Popeyes, we didn't like anybody we served. We were grumpy about them all, and we were particularly grumpy about these franchisees who made all these demands on us and had all these opinions. Who did they think they were? We had an attitude problem. And the first leadership step I took is I told the building that we would never say anything unkind again about a franchise owner who had invested everything they had in our franchise. And it got really quiet. I at least scared the daylights out of my team, right? But over time, they came to understand that if we stopped thinking about them as bad people, we would stop treating them as bad people, and we would start serving them well and thinking about their interests. So I ask you this, if you're a leader, you have to think about, do I actually like these people? Or maybe even a better word, do I actually love the people that have been entrusted to my care? Now, love is a weird word to use, particularly in corporate America. But I use it very intentionally. Because if you don't like the people that you lead and you don't love them genuinely in your heart, you're not going to think about them very often. And you're certainly not going to hold up your actions very often to how well you're serving them. We have the privilege of serving franchise owners. 51% of our system are immigrants to this country pursuing what we like to call the American dream. Do you think we could love them for the finance effort, the sweat equity, the sleeping in their car until they can afford an apartment side of the job? Do you think we could love them for that and not consider them an annoyance in our day? You got to love the people that you lead, or you'll never, ever serve them well. We're privileged to serve entrepreneurs in America and around the world that want to make a great living and a great enterprise for their people by growing restaurants. We need to think about them and serve their interests. The obstacle always to serving others is self. And I cannot take myself out of this conversation. I have the same self problem every human has. I think about myself first just like you think about yourself first. I call this our inner 2-year-old, right? We all want what we want when we want it. We want it now. And if we don't get it, we really do want to lay down on the floor and throw a tantrum, just like a 2-year-old, right? It's human nature. We all have that inner person. Our challenge in leadership is to find a way to squelch that person and think about others. So the picture I always choose for this conversation is a mirror, because In leadership, most people tell you to seek the spotlight. I would tell you to look in a mirror. If you look in a mirror and check your actions and say, am I motivated today for selfish interest? Am I trying to get promoted? Am I trying to get a raise? Am I trying to get that job over there that Sally has that I'd really like to have? Am I trying to make that person look bad? What's your motive? In leadership, your motive shows up, whether you know it or not. Everybody else knows your motive. So looking in the mirror is the guardrail to serving others well. My favorite line is in the first paragraph of a book called The Purpose-Driven Life. I actually only read the first paragraph, I hate to admit. But it stopped me in my tracks because this is so much our nature. Rick Warren asks you to consider, what if it's not about you? This is a great leadership question. What if your leadership is not about you? How would it be different? And it is provocative. Because I'll tell you what, we all are ambitious, achievement-oriented, driven people. We've been taught that power is good, wealth is good, ambition is good. We're all chasing it. But guess what? What if it's not about you? And what if chasing your ambition actually hurts the enterprise that you serve? So here's 3 principles I'm going to give you to ask yourself in leadership. Every leadership position has power attributed to it. If you're given a leadership job, you've just been given power. You've been given authority. You've been given an opportunity to lead a team. So the question I want you to think about is, how will you use the power you've been given? Will it be used for your personal ambition, or will it be used to serve the people well? Achievement. I have a lot of athletes on my team. I don't know how that happened because I do not have an athletic gene in my entire body. I might win a spelling bee, but I will not win a sport. But I have a lot of athletes that have spent their careers, their lives before work, winning trophies as athletes. And they're achievement-driven. And the achievement is the win they're seeking. And we've had to have a lot of conversations about achievement and winning trophies. Because the question is the trophy for you or is it for the team? One of my leaders was a nationally ranked swimmer. Another leader was a nationally ranked football player on a team. Guess which one gets it best? Think for yourself. The individual contributor or the one who played on the team? It's the team, the one who understands that the win, the achievement, is for the team. The third question I'd ask you about is ambition. I'm not against ambition. I think ambition is fuel. It drives the team, the organization, to pursue big, daring destinations. I'm very much for ambition. But I've actually decided I like the word aspiration better because ambition tends to be about self. Aspiration is, how big are you thinking about the organization and where you want to take them? How big is your dream for them? Those questions change the game in your leadership. They make you a different kind of leader. And they make you an effective leader because they make people want to work for you towards the daring destination. Followers love leaders that serve them well. Just think about yourself. How many of you have ever had a job of any kind? Just raise your hand. Okay. Now think about the leader. You don't have to raise your hand about this. Did they serve you well? Or were they on their own personal mission? You know the difference. You could tell in their actions. And I'm pretty sure you wanted to work for one that served you well. John Maxwell says it this way: true leaders must be for the benefit of the followers and not for the leaders. This is not kumbaya and campfires. This is about how you get maximum performance from your team. So the decision you'll have to make is, do you want to be one of these kind of leaders? Do you want to be a leader that decides to serve others well? But right behind that, I'm going to ask you a very different question. You might even find them in conflict. Our second question was, what daring destination would we pursue for this enterprise? What daring destination? How courageous would we be? How bold and crazy would the goals that we set for this company be? You know, when we started this turnaround of Popeyes, just about any goal we set looked crazy, okay? Because they were all aimed at turning around a very long-term trend. So how crazy would we be? It may strike you as odd, but if you serve the people well, you've got to be really brave. You've got to be like extreme sport brave. You've got to be willing to jump out of airplanes. In leadership terms, jumping out of airplanes is setting a bold, daring destination for the team to pursue. Because isn't that what makes it exciting, right? Followers want to be excited by the place that you're taking them. There isn't a leader in history, good leader or bad leader, that didn't at least declare a daring destination. Think about it. Every leader in history that you admire called out a destination that seemed more than crazy at the time. Civil rights, right? Crazy. Nelson Mandela, he had some crazy goals. Those leaders teach us the lessons of daring destinations. I like this quote because it's from a real entrepreneur that actually started a business and succeeded. And he said, the challenge of leadership is to be strong but not rude, to be kind but not weak, to be bold but not a bully. I love that last part about boldness. Boldness is not bully. Boldness is big. Boldness is courageous thinking, daring destination. So in Alice in Wonderland, there's this great conversation between Alice and the cat. And Alice comes to a fork in the road and she says, which way should I go? To the Cheshire Cat. And he looks back and says, that depends on where you want to get to. And the next thing she says is, well, I don't really care much. And then he says, well, then it doesn't really matter which road you take. I can't tell you how many times I've seen this live in the work environment, where the leader calls out no destination, and the people are wandering around at forks in the road saying, I don't care. It doesn't matter. I can go any which way. That's not leadership. Leadership is deciding where the destination is. A friend of mine used to say to me, Cheryl, we need to know where we're going on vacation. Do I need to bring a bathing suit or a ski suit? Right? Leadership is about telling people where you're going to go, what they need to bring, how they prepare to get there. And if you don't, they're as lost as Alice in the wilderness. At Popeyes, on the first day that we had a leadership meeting for our whole system, we said this bold, crazy, audacious thing. We said 5 years from now, we're going to be the hottest concept in the restaurant industry. Nobody even laughed. It was so crazy. Okay? They're like, lady, do you know where we stand right now? Do you know how bad we stink? We're anything but the boldest, best performing brand. There wouldn't have been a soul in the audience that believed this on the first day. So why did we say it? We said it because we needed to chase a bold and daring destination. We needed to be courageous. We needed to give people a reason to stick around and try. And our reason was, we said we're going to move this business from $1 million to $1.2 million per restaurant. We beat that. We're going to move our guest experience by improving speed of service. We beat that. We're going to move your profitability 40%. We hit that. And then you're going to be so excited to be here, you're going to build more restaurants than anybody but McDonald's. Oh, yeah, right, Cheryl. It was crazy. It was daring. It was bold. But I would put forth to you, had we not called out something so bold and crazy, there might not have been any followers behind us. We needed to do something courageous. It's only in the courageous acts that you overcome fears, gain confidence, triumph, and experience success. I often say, I've already told you I'm not an athlete, so that means I'm also not in extreme sports, right? I've never done a single one of those crazy things, like jumping out of airplanes or hang gliding or kayak waterfalling or whatever that's called. Never done any of that. But here's a piece of research that I find fascinating. These two researchers studied extreme sport athletes, and they were trying to get at the core learning of these athletes. What did they get? What was the thrill of being an extreme sport athlete? And they found out this. They found out that two things were transformed in the athlete. One was their courage, and the other, interestingly, was their humility. The first one I thought was kind of logical, right? That if you jump off a building enough times, you'll get more confident if you don't die, right? So if it works, you parasail or you jump out of the airplane and you don't die, your courage would grow, your confidence would grow. But the second one didn't make any sense to me at all. Why would you be more humble on the 9th time you jump out of the airplane? Well, the interesting thing is that extreme sports remind you every time you do one that you're not in control of the outcome. You're not in control of the outcome. You don't know if you're going to die or not. And that is humbling. So I'll tell you what, I still haven't jumped out of an airplane, but I now think of leadership as an extreme sport. Great leaders are incredibly courageous in calling out a destination, but they are incredibly humble because they know that it's a prayer that they're going to get there. They know that they could be humbled by mistakes along the way. In fact, they've done it enough to know it for sure, that they are courageous and humble. So decision time for you is wherever you're leading. Do you have a daring destination in mind for the people that you serve? And are you doing everything in your power to help them be successful in getting there? That's the tension between daring and serving. Do you feel it? You're serving others well, but you've got to be incredibly courageous about the destination. Because if you're not, if the team doesn't get somewhere really good, if there aren't some excellent performance results at the end, if you don't reach the bold goal, you haven't served them very well. I often say I'm not funny, and I'm not. I couldn't tell a joke if I tried. But I really like this quote from Lucille Ball because she was funny. She was an amazing comedian, one of the first female comedians in American history. And this is what she said about herself. She said, I'm not funny. I'm just brave. She was brave enough to be the first female in many circumstances. She was brave enough to tell jokes that no women had ever told. She created television shows before any women produced any television shows. She wasn't funny. She was incredibly brave. I like that thought. So 2 last things I'm going to talk about, and then we're going to open this up to questions. So I want you to be thinking about the questions. That's always, for me, the most fun part of a conversation. But there are 2 more pieces to this that I want to talk about before we do that. And forgive me, I need just a quick drink. The 2 other things we need to talk about are the purpose of work and the principles that guide you in your leadership work. So first, the purpose. At Popeyes, we have a plaque on the wall, and it looks just like this plaque. And in the middle of it, it states the purpose of our company, which is to inspire servant leaders to achieve superior results. Around it are the 6 guiding principles of how we will work together to make decisions. So I want to talk to you just for a few minutes about why this has been important to the turnaround of Popeyes. You may remember this conversation. How many of you have heard of the Enron debacle, the huge company that came to its knees? Have you heard about Enron? I don't know if you remember, but the words on their plaque were like honesty, integrity, incredible value words, okay? And they came tumbling down for having no guiding principles in the way they operated. They had a highly complicated, some would call intelligent, I would question that word, but highly complicated fraud scheme that bilked all their investors and all their employees out of everything they had. And they had a plaque on the wall. So I want to warn you, plaques are dangerous because the only thing that the only person that anyone ever meets is the purpose and principles of your organization. Nobody meets plaques. They meet you. So one of the discoveries we've made in this journey at Popeyes is that it's really important to know our people and to know why they came to work, what their purpose is for leadership. Because if we don't know that, we have no idea why they're coming, how they want to contribute, what principles or values they bring to the table. We're flying blind, and we're probably not getting the best from our team. So we've started a process where we ask everybody in our organization to figure out why they came to work. Because we think nothing's really work if you like it, right? If you like your work, it's not work. If you're ready to give your all, it's because you're doing something you really love. So we said, what if we went to everybody and we did this process of discovering your personal purpose for work? Now, I know this feels weird, and I know you're like, oh, my goodness, that must have been an awkward moment when you brought all your leaders in a room and started asking these touchy-feely questions. And it was. It was awkward. But you know what? It was the right question. Because if we just put up the plaque that said we're going to be servant leaders and we're going to deliver superior results, nothing would have happened. The only reason change has occurred in Popeyes is because change has occurred in our leaders. They have become clear about why they come to work. The process we have them go through, they look at their life experiences, their values, and their standout strengths, as we call them, their talents. And out of that, they craft a statement of personal purpose about how they want to add value, how they want to serve at Popeyes. And I'll tell you what, it takes some people a week to do that. It takes some people 2 or 3 years to get that right, so it's really true and genuine. But boy, when a person figures that out, they show up at work differently. They show up differently. They contribute differently. The energy, the passion, the commitment, the work ethic, everything about the person changes. You can see the full exercise on the website purposeofleadership.com if you want to look at how we did it. All the instructions are there. But I would tell you this was an incredibly important part of engaging our team in the daring destination that we chose. Engagement is a measure of how much people feel connected to their work. It's kind of the typical way you measure affiliation of people in the workplace. It's made up of these 4 questions, and we run this survey in our company every year. We ask, are you proud to work here? We ask if you're looking for a different job, and it's confidential, so you can answer that. We ask, would I recommend Popeyes as a great place to work? And we just simply say, are you satisfied? Are you extremely satisfied to be here? This is a measure of how excited you are to work with us. 78% of our employees say they are highly engaged. The industry standard is about 69%. The top 25% of our people that have really declared and understood who they are and why they work are 89% engaged, excited to be here, want to be part of the future. It's a difference maker in performance. There's a lot of research done on this by the Gallup organization. A highly engaged organization financially outperforms a low engagement organization every time. There's math behind this idea. And so we want to be a highly engaged organization. And we believe if you know why you came, you're more engaged, you give more to the organization. So then that brings us to the how we work together. We have 6 guiding principles at Popeyes. Passion, listen carefully and learn continuously. Be fact-based and planful. Coach and develop your people. Personal responsibility and accountability. And finally, value humility. We have found that passion is necessary at work. I mean, if you don't really feel passion for what you do, right, there's no excitement and zeal. But we govern that by facts and plans. We're a very analytical company. We measure everything that moves because we want to check our decisions and our passions against real facts to see if we're making progress. In the middle between those two is listen carefully and learn continuously. I actually stole this one from Robert Greenleaf, the servant leader person I mentioned earlier, because he said these are the 2 traits that most characterize people who serve others well. It's people that have the ability to listen carefully and learn continuously. It's really evidence about whether you care about other people, whether you're hearing their feedback, whether you're looking for their contributions, or whether it's all about you. And learning continuously, I always say it's probably the number one thing I look for in a leader is, are you hungry to learn more, to become better, do you aspire to grow as a leader constantly? Those 2 traits probably encompass the 2 most important things you need as a servant leader to be effective. Coaching and developing people, frankly, is something we're bad at Popeyes. We're not a people development company yet. We're small. We don't have a very strong HR capability yet. We haven't built all the training and the tools that we should have for our team members. But we put it on the plaque early because we believe it's critical to becoming a successful company. And in the next 5 years of our lives, most of our resources will be dedicated to how we develop leaders, both in the office, in the field, and in the restaurants. There are 2 values on our plaque. One is around accountability, and the other is around humility. Accountability is, as we like to say, do your piece of the puzzle. Each of us has a role in an organization, and if one of us doesn't do our part, the organization's weakened by that lack of accountability. So we put a lot of attention on personal accountability at Popeyes. And then humility, we say, if you say you are humble, you definitely aren't. Right? Anyone who gets in front of the room and says, I am now humble, probably not. But we want to value it. We want to call it out in every opportunity to say, that didn't sound like a very humble comment, or that sounded kind of like about you. What about we think about the franchise owner in this situation? How would that change the decision? And we call out these guiding principles daily in our decision making, and they make a big difference. But again, they're only a plaque if they're not your principles. So the three that I would suggest to you need to consider as values if you want to be a Dare to Serve leader are these three things. And these are really difficult values to live in your daily life. It's real easy to say values, real hard to do. The first value I would tell you need to have to be a servant leader is dignity of other human beings. And what I mean by that is you need to be able to look in the eyes of another human being and say, you have value. You're here for a reason. You have something you can contribute to this team. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to try to figure it out because I'm pretty sure you're worthy of being here and contributing to this enterprise. If I think about you that way, I have all kinds of patience for you. I spend time learning more about you and what drives you. I find out what your gifts are. I'm in a better position then to put you in a position in the company where you can add value. It makes me want to talk to you and have a relationship with you, right? Because I value you as a person. Human dignity has a place in the workplace. It's not just a cause outside the workplace. It's a real powerful thing in the workplace to treat people as if they have real value. I would tell you that our franchisees say this today. They say, you know what? No one ever acted like we mattered in this company until this team came together. No one took our phone calls. No one came to visit us. I visited some of the countries where we have Popeyes. We're in 26 countries. And they said, we've never seen a leadership team member from Popeyes before, and we've been in business overseas for 30 years. Act like you value the people. Act like they matter. Human dignity to every single person that you have the privilege of leading. The second one is personal responsibility, and that's referring you back to the mirror picture I showed you earlier. Personal responsibility is looking at yourself before you look at the weaknesses of others. Personal responsibility is saying, and this happens all the time in leadership, you look out in the organization and say, okay, we messed that one up good. We did not perform our best. And a servant leader, their first question is, what did I do wrong? How did I set up the conditions that allowed my team to fail? Right? A good football coach would say that if the team lost the game. They would say, what did I do wrong in the practice rounds? What's wrong in our playbook that didn't allow the team to perform at the highest level? It starts with the leader. It starts with that look in the mirror before you have any criticism for the team. And the third one is this idea of humility. And for me, I've started to just keep a picture in my mind of a spotlight, and I happen to be sitting on a stage, so it's a good picture to have in our mind here, because if there was a spotlight here with that big circle that a spotlight creates on the stage, the thing I try to keep in my mind is, have I stepped into the spotlight or am I staying out of it? That's what humility is. C.S. Lewis says humility is not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less often. It's not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking less of yourself less often. So the spotlight is always in the room for a leader. You have power, you're charged with achieving great things, you should have ambition. But how often do you really need to stand in the spotlight? How often does it really need to be about you? Now, it's an unexpected thing, right? Because if we were at a play in New York on Broadway and the lights go dim and the curtain opened and the spotlight came on the stage, we would expect somebody to be in it, right? We'd be looking for the actor or actress who was going to open the show. What would happen if they never came into the spotlight? It would be weird. But you would start to wonder where they were coming from and what they were doing. And you would find out through the course of the night that their goal as the leader was to put others in the spotlight. And through that, to create exceptional results. I hope this has been really provocative to you. I'm going to go to this last thought before I open it up for questions. The kind of send-off that I want to give you tonight is this. Leadership, as you've heard me say, is an incredible opportunity for influence. If you have 5 people that you lead in a full-time job, you have 100,000 hours of their life this year to influence. If you have 50 people, you have 1,000,000 hours of influence. If you have 500 people who work for you, you have 10 million hours of influence. Leadership is an incredible opportunity to have impact on people's lives. Are you thinking about it that way? Are you going out into the world from this place and thinking about what you're going to do with your influence? Because I'm telling you, this is an incredible responsibility. Dr. Stackhouse says this. He says, increasingly business leaders may be the stewards of civilization. Now that's one of those statements you could say that's crazy. But he goes on to say right after that, what if our other institutions fail? What if government fails us? What if the family fails us? What if religion fails us? He goes through the list of every institution. And he said leaders need to be thinking about their stewardship, their influence, their opportunity to help steward civilization. And that includes those of us that lead businesses. So no matter where you're headed in your life or in your leadership, take it seriously. Think about it as an opportunity for influence and impact. And the cool thing about that is you'll lead your team to incredible performance. Thanks for your attention.
Hey, when you make bold decisions or decide on bold goals, how do you define the line between attainable goals and unrealistic goals?
It's a really good question. How do you decide what's an achievable goal in that bold goal setting? When I wrote about it, I said the test is whether it's plausible to the team that they could ever get there. So what we did is we benchmarked our company compared to high-performing companies in our industry. And we said it's plausible that we could be a chain with $1.3 million in sales per restaurant because Burger King has $1.3 million in sales. And then we said it's plausible that we could have 22% margins because another chain has 22% margins. So we definitely tested our bold destination to say there's evidence that it can be accomplished. Because if it truly had been crazy hard, people would have given up before they began. So it was a stretch plan, but it wasn't off the charts. Mm-hmm.
Hi, I enjoyed your talk about servant leadership. I appreciate you coming to talk to us. I had a question about kind of what's currently going on with Popeyes and the fast food industry in general now, and just wanted to know about like the minimum wage movement and how that's affecting your business and how Popeyes is looking at that movement and how they look at wages for their workers.
Well, I would tell you first and foremost how we think about it is we produce more careers in America than any other industry. 25% of everyone in America's first job is in a restaurant. 80% of every manager, supervisor, and owner in a restaurant company started at the front line, in a frontline job. We look at the first job in a restaurant as a stepping stone to a career path. And even if you leave the restaurant industry, 50% of Americans work in a restaurant at some point in their life as a second job. So we think we're a valuable contributor to the development of leaders and careers in America. We teach people their first job skills. We teach people who don't have college degrees how to become managers and business owners. We create real value in careers in the way we develop people. One thing that's not well understood, very few people actually make minimum wage in the restaurant industry. You couldn't hire competitively if you paid the minimum wage. No one stays at minimum wage. We have never turned down anyone who had aspirations to become a shift runner, an assistant manager, or a manager. Never. Why would we? We want people to grow and become leaders in our organization. So it's only a stepping stone. So that's the first thing that's very misunderstood. So how do I feel about the minimum wage and the idea that the minimum wage would move from somewhere in the $7, $8 range to $15? If it did that overnight, it would destroy the business proposition. It would. There's 35 employees in a restaurant. We can't run it with 15. There are about 5 full-time employees in the restaurant. We can't let half of them go and still open the doors. So it's a real business problem to try to figure it out. In the end, we've had minimum wage increases before. If there's a sane and steady increase in the minimum wage, we will adjust to it over time through price increases. That's the only option you have, because you have to have 35 people to run a restaurant. So we will pay higher wages as that goes up, and if it goes up steadily, we can handle it through price increases. And we're hoping for some sensibility in the regulators, because the problem is not that we wouldn't be happy to pay more. The problem is if we move there too quickly, it will disrupt job creation. Every one of those 200 restaurants we opened last year was 35 jobs that didn't exist in the community. So if we go too fast, it will disrupt job creation, and unemployment will just go back up.
You talked about servant leadership a lot, and other than the word serve or serving, how would you define servant leadership in one word or phrase?
Serving others above self. It's nothing more complicated than that. In the restaurant business, servant leadership is being willing to pour someone's iced tea without whining about it. This is what we do for a living. We give you a good meal experience. We serve you well. So I try not to overcomplicate it. It's simply kind of getting yourself out of the way and focusing on the needs of the people that work for you and the guests that you serve.
Hi, my name's Katie. I'm a student at Georgia Tech and taking the Impact Forum class, so I'm really happy to hear from you today. With obesity being more of a public health issue in the national spotlight, what is Popeyes doing to be a responsible actor to mitigate that?
Yeah, questions about healthy eating and being a responsible contributor. I will be honest with you, I believe in personal responsibility first and foremost. I think the responsibility of each of us is to manage our health and our lives. I do not think you can legislate people to make wiser choices. Now, we have made menu changes, and we've created some wonderful products with good health profile. Our green bean is amazing. It has a turkey bacon. It has 40 calories per serving. But if you don't want to eat green beans, there is nothing I can do about it, right? I can't make you step off the street and into our restaurant to eat a green bean. So we're going to continue to make great products. I think what's going to happen is I think there's going to be what I call a stealth health movement. I think we will, over time, make our products more healthy and just not talk about it. Because if we tell you that, you stop eating them, right? You just say, good health products are products people don't buy. And so I think this is already happening. Fritos already reduced the salt in all of your chips, and you don't know it. That's stealth health. It's the right thing to do. But if they talked about it, you'd stop eating their chips, and you would tell them they taste bad. So I think there's going to be a lot of movement and reality, but I don't think we should get confused that if we changed our whole menu to non-fried and green beans tomorrow, no one would come. It's happening right now in the school system. It's been legislated that all public schools must serve fruits and vegetables, and they're throwing away 50% of the fruits and vegetables in a trash can at the end of every day. Every day, because the kid's eating a piece of pizza. Okay, if he doesn't come with the value and the point of view that he's going to eat an apple, doesn't eat an apple. So we just got to keep a balanced conversation going, and I'm all for moving the right direction, but let's go there in a way that's responsible and doesn't drive unintended consequences that don't make any sense, like throwing half the food away in our public schools. Yep.
Hi. Yes, I run a business here in Atlanta.
Yep.
In my business, we have people that do pretty basic frontline tasks. I try to generally create a work environment that's as good as possible, but I'm really focused on how do I make that experience as good as it can be from kind of a growth standpoint, where I guess my question would be, is it more important to create a pathway towards moving up in the company, or is it more important to have just a really pleasant work environment?
It's funny you say that. One of my franchisees last week ran research with his restaurant teams and asked them what the most important things were to them at work, and the number one thing was exactly what you said. They said they'd like to work at a pleasant place. It wasn't money. Money wasn't the first thing they said. And I think that's really telling. That's what the engagement statistics would say, is that creating a good place for work, and the way I define that is there clarity about what you expect from each person and need from each person? Are you helping them get the skills they need to provide that? Are you creating an upbeat, motivating place to do that work? Is there camaraderie between the team? Those are the kinds of things people say make the workplace pleasant, that they're learning and getting along well with others. And they always quit over those things going wrong. They very seldom quit over money or promotion, but they often quit over being in the wrong environment. So your biggest impact's on the environment, and of course I believe in promoting people who are talented and have potential over time, but I've often found that I don't always have enough jobs soon enough to promote them when they want to be promoted, and that keeping them challenged and active by giving them an extra project, giving them a chance to work in another area of the company is often another way to keep the environment good for them on the way to that promotion. Yes.
My question, okay, so when Microsoft first started out, Bill Gates said computer on every desk in every home.
Mm-hmm.
Microsoft. What is Popeyes' next daring destination, and will does Popeyes incorporate, is it currently looking for disruptive innovations to implement in the restaurant space towards that?
Well, I gave you a little bit of clue into our next bold, daring destination because it is this. We've always been famous for the food, and our food scores off the charts compared to our competitors. That's always been what we stood for. It's our iPhone, if you use the Apple example. And we want to always be that to people. People drive 50 to 100 miles to get to our restaurants if they don't have one near their home. So it's compelling. But the thing we want to fix in the next 5 to 10 years is the employee experience and the guest experience, which is not compelling and it's not fun. We want to be the best place to work for in QSR, and we want to be the best guest experience in QSR. And we want to transform our company. And by the way, that's never been done in a franchise organization before. The only companies that score exceptionally high on engagement and on guest experience are either founder companies and privately held companies. We have everything against us. We have to work through owners that we have no authority over, and we're in a public company environment. So we're going to do something really daring and try to change ourselves on those two metrics. And all of our investment is shifting towards the people and guest experience for the next 5 years.
Hi, yeah, I just had a follow-up question about that. You mentioned guest experience has gone from bad to good, but it's not great. And you just mentioned that's what you're focusing on. What real steps are you taking to improve that guest experience?
Well, to be honest with you, I can't fix your experience until the employee who serves you is having a good experience. So it really starts with the leader in the restaurant. We've got to hire, train, and develop terrific leaders in the restaurant, support them with the tools they need to be great leaders, because if they don't create that environment for the team, they're not going to smile when you come in, they're not going to care about your order, they're not going to solve your problem when you have a problem. A lot of companies have tried to fix the guest experience without fixing the employee experience, and to a number they fail. Can't be done. So I'm really ambitious about making Popeyes faster and cleaner and more accurate, and drive-thrus could be a whole lot better. But I can't do that until the employees say, I am cranked up to be here. This is the most awesome place to work. And then they're, by nature, they're going to smile at you and take care of you and do the right thing. That's the sequence it goes in.
Am I last?
I was going to ask. Oh, you can ask a question? I'm sorry. I didn't see you at the microphone.
Okay. Should I go or you go?
Let me go first, and then you can finish.
Okay.
We might have the same question, but I think one of the tenets of servant leadership is that as a servant leader, you want the people you serve to also become servant leaders. Mm-hmm. And are you seeing that happening with your franchise operators?
Yes. Yeah, that's probably the coolest thing that we're experiencing, is that because we have served them well, They are thinking more about how they serve their people. I had a franchisee just a couple months ago who came from one of our planning meetings, and he said, you know what, I think I've got the whole wrong approach to my team, and I'm going to go back and change things up. He went back and he fired his supervisors, and he actually didn't fire them. He said, you're no longer supervisors, because supervisors is the wrong mindset towards people. You are coaches. You are trainers. Your job is to make the restaurant's life better, not to whip them into shape. And I've watched his brain just be transformed on this point, that I have been well served, therefore I have a responsibility to serve my team well. And I think it's contagious. I think it's the reason I'm confident that we can change our employee and guest experience. I think servant leadership is contagious, and I think our franchisees see that.
What does Popeyes Louisiana Kitchens do in terms of interacting with their communities? And one of the reasons why I'm asking is when the announcement went out that you were speaking, Camp Twin Lakes, which is a camp for people, kids mostly, and people with serious illnesses and other life challenges. And they say, yay, Cheryl's coming. Popeyes is helping support the bike-a-thon, the bike fundraiser that lets kids have a camp experience. So how does the community fit in, and is that through your franchises, or what's going on there?
There's a couple of ways. The community is important. One thing you might not know about the restaurant industry, the restaurant owners, the owners in the restaurant industry are the most generous people of any industry in America. They give more money back in their communities than any other industry. I love to tell that. I mean, sometimes you hear about it. Sometimes you hear that they served food during the Katrina hurricane or those kinds of big stories. But there's a lot of small stories in restaurant owners giving scholarships to kids, in sending kids to camp, in supporting muscular dystrophy. One of our franchisees gives $1 million every year to muscular dystrophy. So we largely allow the owners to choose their commitments in their communities because we think they'll give more to things they care most about. So that's first and foremost their role and responsibility in the community. Popeyes corporately, we have two things that we work on. One is we really believe there's an opportunity to teach the restaurant industry to people seeking career opportunities, and we've joined up with the industry in a project called ProStart. We actually teach curriculum in 1,800 high schools across the country in both culinary skills and restaurant management skills. And what that does, you easily understand that benefits us eventually. But the benefit to the student is I'm in these classrooms with kids that don't know what they're going to do, and they're not going to go to college, and they haven't figured out how they can add value in the world. And I'm watching their eyes light up when they discover that they can be a sous chef, maybe even on the Food Network. And then they discover one of the projects they do is they design a restaurant, and they find out about ServeSafe, which is how we keep food safe. And they're like, I could train ServeSafe. And you just watch these kids light up to discover that there's an opportunity and a place for them that can lead to a great career. So that's my biggest personal investment, and the funds of our corporate office are invested in ProStart. And then we also do things to support employees in need. That's my next challenge, is I really want to raise a lot of money because our employees have difficult life problems just like all employees do, floods and fires and disease and illness, and we want to be in a better position to respond to our team members. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Cheryl, thanks for coming to Georgia Tech today.